The Digital Photography Cafe show is brought to you by Focus Pyramid, the autofocus lens calibration tool for your camera.
Welcome to the Digital Photography Cafe show. Join hosts Trevor Current and Joseph Christina as they serve up the hottest photography news and commentary.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. This is episode 160. I'm Joseph Christina here with my co-host Trevor Current. Last week's show we talked about an up-and-coming Adobe Lightroom preset series, Doug Gordon nixed as a Nikon ambassador, and the brand new Kindle all-you-can-eat plan. If you haven't watched last week's show, we encourage you to do so. You can find it at digitalphotographycafe.com and our YouTube channel, youtube.com/dphotocafe. Listen with the popular Stitcher, TuneIn, and Xbox music apps, or subscribe through iTunes or RSS.
Hey Joe, we are back, episode 160. Can you believe it?
Wow, 160.
I know, another 10 down. Man.
In the can. I know. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Just keep plugging
We've been doing
away.
this for some time now, right?
Yeah, like what, 3
2.5
years? 3 plus years
yeah.
now.
Over 3 years. My
Yeah.
goodness.
Crazy.
Well, welcome everyone, right? Welcome to the show. 160. Got a pretty interesting show today. It's going to be a little bit more educational, informative. Not as much newsy this week, right?
Yeah. I mean, there was a couple little things, but summer is usually a little slow for the news. And sometimes we're pulling in tech stories as opposed to, true photography related things and stuff, all of which though we feel are related to the photography industry. I mean, that's why we talk about them. That's why we do them.
Right.
But yeah, this week we wanted to talk about, give you tips and discuss about how to make great looking photos.
Yeah, kind of like pre-production and post-production.
Right.
So that's kind of what we're going to hit on, I think, today. And to start off with, there's really three things that when you're capturing these images, what you really need to focus on, getting it right in camera. And it's white balance, exposure, and sharpness. Now, exposure is very, very important. People think, I shoot raw, Joe. I don't need it. The exposure, whatever it is, it is.
Right.
I'll go and push it one way or push it another way in raw in my editing package, and it'll be fine. But truthfully, it's not the case. Getting it right in the camera and getting that exposure dead on means that you have the latitude to pull it one way or push it the other way and not degrade the image. Do not lose any of the quality.
Right.
Too many people will shoot things and the lighting is poor, and then when they are in post, they take a look at it and they're pushing it.
Yeah.
And they're looking at the images getting more and more and more grainy, right?
Yeah. You know what?
Good.
I've got a story for this one too. So a friend of mine, she's actually a business contact. Her daughter was getting married and was looking for a photographer, found this photographer. She loved her black and white photography. That is primarily, what she wanted for her book and wall hangings and such. But her mother, my client, she wanted color images as well. So the photographer shot everything. Some of the photos look really good. They captured nice movement and stuff like that at the reception, some of the dancing and things. But everything the photographer delivered was black and white.
Right.
And I'm
exactly what she liked, what she wanted, supposedly.
Yeah,
right?
which is what the daughter wanted. It's not what the mom wanted. So,
right.
She sends me a disc with the photos on it, and she says, look at these. She's like, they're all black and white. I wanted color. She said she doesn't have color. And I'm kind of looking at the black and white images, and I'm seeing that they were really pushed. And basically what the photographer did was she shot in the reception hall. She was underexposed because it was dark. She wasn't using off-camera flash. She wasn't using any other type of lighting. So the images were very dark. Well, by converting them to grayscale, to black and white, you can push and pull the contrast and the brightness a little bit more and kind of get away with it.
Right.
But when you're in color, it just looks god-awful. So you can't do that. And that's what I told her. I said, this really is what it looks like she did. Because even the black and whites were pushing a little bit of grain. And I looked at the EXIF data on the images and saw that she
Right.
was shooting with a 5D Mark II. So it certainly had the ability to pull in a quality image. She just didn't light it.
Yeah, it's not lit. And it doesn't matter the camera. Everyone thinks that, oh, I shoot a 5D Mark II or Mark III. It's full frame. I'm getting all this light in there. I'm shooting at 2.8 or whatever. Bottom line is, when you're in a dark situation, I don't care. You can push it up to 3200, 6400 even, and you'll get kind of okay images. But they're not going to be stellar, number one. No. You're going to get grain in the darks when you go and take a look at it. And yeah, a lot of people do that. They use black and white as kind of like a crutch.
Yeah.
I shot a crappy picture. Go ahead and convert it to black and white and make it into an okay picture. I also do fine art. All of my fine art is done, it used to be film, black and white. Now it's photographic digital, black and white. But I only do chemical prints. I don't even use Epsons
like the inkjets,
no inkjets, right? They're all chemical, huge 3-foot, 4-foot chemical prints. But anyways, I love black and white. The thing is just because it's black and white, that doesn't mean that the original image has to be poor. It's important that you get it right in the camera, because once it's right in the camera, you take that raw image, you go into, let's say, Lightroom or Aperture or whatever you use for your post-production, and then you can really do some nice tweaking and make it even better, make it stellar. But yeah, you get into a bad lighting situation, I don't care what camera it is, you're going to get mediocre at best images. So that sounds like exactly what happens there. It just, you need to be able to light stuff. And don't be scared of off camera flash or even on camera flash.
No, you got to figure it out.
Bounce it. You need to figure it out. Don't be one of those people, right, that say, I do not do flash. I only shoot natural light.
Yeah, well, natural light's not going to work in every situation. I mean, if you're controlling the environment and you can shoot in natural light because you're outside or you have big, huge windows in the reception hall or whatever, and you can control that and use natural light, then hey, more power to you. But yeah, don't use that as a crutch either. I mean, learn your lighting, learn flash, learn. I mean, if you want to use constant lighting, I mean, that's kind of obnoxious at an event, but I mean, there's other options.
I've seen many photographers use a video camera type style light because they don't want to use flash and they know what they're going to get in camera every time. Right. It's not bad. I mean, I don't like it, but it's not bad.
I don't think the guests like it either, not being blinded all the time.
Yeah, a split second flash compared to a heat lamp on you. If you're at McDonald's,
they're dancing, getting a suntan at the same time.
Yeah. No, it's a better way to go, period. You want to go ahead and use natural light to get your base settings. And then after that, you can use your flash to fill. Too many people think about flash as just blasting flash out there. And you have this person, let's say in an event, where you don't see any of the background. Everything is black in the background. And then the subject is perfectly lit.
Yep.
No. I'm an event photographer. This is what I do. You do not do that. The whole idea is to get the background perfectly lit and then light the subject. Your background comes first. You don't want a black background. People want to know that they're at that specific function or at that location. So yeah, anyways, that's the bottom line with exposure. But moving from exposure into white balance. And that goes back to your story. The person had horrible color images. Why? Because it wasn't lit properly. The way color works, and people say this too. Oh, I don't need to balance my I don't need white balance. I'll just put it on auto, and what it gets is what it gets. And then they come back and they shot an event, and all their pictures are so heavily yellow. This stuff looks just it's horrible. And then what do? They go into Lightroom, and then they go push it 3,000-4,000 Kelvin in the other direction to take this yellow out. To neutralize it. Yep. And they look at the image and like, why does this look like everyone is dead? Yeah. Why is the color so gross? Why is it so muddy? Why is it so gray? It's because there's nothing there anymore. Yeah. The value isn't there.
You've pushed the color too far.
You can't do that.
Yeah.
Guys, if there's one thing that you can learn besides that off-camera flash or even on-camera flash bounce properly, lighting stuff properly, is getting your color right in the camera at the time of capture.
Learn how to use those custom white balances.
Right. So a lot of people will say, a lot of photographers will say, well, shoot shoot a gray card. Yeah, that works great. And you know what? It's a good. It's good to do. It is one way to do it. In other words, shoot a gray card, or shoot, let's say, a napkin in each room that you're going to be shooting. And then later on in, let's say, Lightroom, you can go and use your eyedropper and balance an entire set of photographs based on that specific gray.
Right.
Okay? That specific card, or let's say the napkin. That works. That works really well. The problem is you're back to pushing.
You're pushing it.
You're shooting and you're at this yellow image, and then you're balancing it. Yes, your balance will be dead on for all those images. Great. But your color will be muted. It won't be great. Ideally is shoot that gray scale, or shoot that gray card, or shoot that napkin, and use that as a custom white balance.
Right.
That's why on your camera you have like a little sun, a little cloud, but then you have something that says not AWB, not auto white balance, but just WB. Right. White balance, your custom white balance. Each camera is a little bit different, but look for your custom white balance setting. You want to change it to that, and then just simply custom white balance for that room. It's very, very simple. Once you know how to do it, it literally takes seconds. So what I would do is I'd walk into a room, I look around, well, is the lighting going to be like this during the event? Yes? Okay. I'll hold up a sheet or a napkin or one of my gray cards. I'll take a picture of it, and then in the settings, it says, use this image as white balance. Click yes.
Yeah.
That's it. I am done. That room, if I take my camera and switch it over to WB, that room is balanced, period. It's not going to be meandering around all over the place. Every single image will be white balanced.
Now, if you're in that big room, though, and it's got a lot of like tungsten overhead lighting, very yellow lighting, but yet there's windows in the room, you may need to do a second white balance. If the first area that you're shooting is under the overhead lights, white balance for that area. If you're moving out towards the windows to capture some other people or what have you, that light temperature is going to be different. So you're going to want to do a new white balance at that point, and then you're going to have to mess with your exposure and everything else, because now you have an additional light source.
Yeah,
So
I would recommend balance for the majority and then auto white balance for the minority.
Sure.
This way you have a small number of images. Let's say it's with that window shot that you're talking about.
Right.
A small number of images will be auto white balanced, and those you can fix in post. But the majority, let's say in that room of 400 people plus or whatever, will be all that same white balance, and it's neutralized. So this way, when you go into post, you could push it one way or you could push it the other way, and you have the latitude.
You've got enough that you can push. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Or pull, or whatever you want to do.
Pull.
So,
yeah.
Anyways, going on, sharpness, right, guys? People are like, wow, we have Photoshop. So, we take a shot, it's a little bit soft. It's okay. We'll go ahead and sharpen it. We can do all kinds of tricks to sharpen an image in Photoshop. The bottom line, guys, is if you shoot a soft image, the image will always be soft. You can fake it.
Yep.
Then you can fake it pretty well in Photoshop if you're going to be doing a 4x6. But if you're going to blow it up the size of a 8x10 or a wall size, you're going to see it. You want to get your sharpness right in the camera, and where you point that camera and lock on, that is where you want it to be sharp. Nowhere else.
Yeah.
Right?
And this autofocus issue has always been a problem, not just with digital cameras, but with film cameras as well. When autofocus came into them. Prior to the autofocus system, we were focusing everything manually, through the lens. And, maybe you were fortunate enough to be able to zoom in tight, get a nice focus or what have you. But, when everybody started relying on autofocus, it's still not accurate. It's better than nothing. It's better than trying to focus blind, but it's still not going to give you 100% sharpness. And that is really important. Getting that sharpness right in camera will save you in post trying to fake it.
Yeah, no, you're 100% correct. I know the film days and everything was manual at the very beginning.
Yep.
You would be able to lock it in exactly where you want it, and you knew when you took that picture exactly what was going to be in focus. Now that we so heavily rely on our autofocus systems to simply get it right. The point of the matter is it just doesn't get it right. And you think it would, but it can't. It just absolutely can't. But see, what happens is every time you take a camera body and you take a lens and you snap it to it, a DSLR, there is slight variance.
Yep.
It's not going to snap on today as it will in 4 years from now. It just simply won't.
Yep.
Things wear out.
Things change. Yep.
Things change. Glass moves inside. There's issues that create this variance, and that's just
and even
the way
from
it is.
lens to lens. So you may put your 70 to 200 on. You're going to have one focusing point, and then you go and you put your 50 millimeter prime on, and you're going to have a different focusing point. In theory, they should be the same, but mechanically, it's near impossible from the factory to get them exactly at the same points.
Yeah, and we know. I mean, as let's say if you're a portrait photographer, what is your biggest nightmare? Taking an absolute perfect shot of someone, and then you go back and you look at it, and the hair is perfect, and the smile is perfect, and the attitude is perfect, the personality, everything is just absolutely perfect. You zoom in, and what happens?
Yeah.
Eyelashes are soft,
The
eyes are soft.
Yeah,
But you can see every hair at the tip of her nose or his nose. It's like
every pore
God.
in great
Every
detail.
pore.
Yeah.
It's like
That's a problem, and this is where
unbelievable.
going in and trying to fix it in Photoshop or putting a little bit of sharpening on it and stuff. I mean, it can save your butt, no doubt. But that you don't want to have to rely on software to save your butt. Ideally, you get it right in camera. You're doing less work in software. You move along quicker. And get it done quicker.
Yeah. So finally, autofocus came around where actually it started working a little bit better. We were kind of relying on it, but still was off. Finally, the camera manufacturers said, well, so many of these photographers are sending back their lenses and sending back their bodies, and then we would calibrate them to neutral. That's fine.
Yep.
But then as soon as they snap on another lens, the thing would be off again. And then they'd be sending them back and all of this back and forth. Finally, they created what is called micro focus adjustment or autofocus adjustment. These micro adjustments that you can make in custom setting menu on many of the DSLRs today, right?
Right.
Works out awesome.
Right.
Finally.
Yeah. And you can use a tool. I mean, there's lots of tools out there, DIY stuff that you can download. There's some real expensive ones. And then, of course, Focus Pyramid, which obviously we've talked about a lot on the show, sponsor and everything. But, I mean, that is what you need to do. You need to utilize these micro adjustments and really sharpen that lens, get it so it is tack sharp. And then what it does is it saves it in its memory. So it'll know when you pop on that 70 to 200 that it needs to adjust to certain parameters. And when you take that off and you put that 50 millimeter on, that lens will adjust to certain parameters. And then you can be a little bit more confident that when you shoot that portrait and you lock that autofocus dot on the eyes, that you are going to get the sharpest image that you can.
Yeah, so talking about Focus Pyramid and different things, how to get it right. Once they introduced this, I was like, well, let me see what I can do to make my life less miserable and get it right in camera. And I found, of course, a lot of these tools, these autofocus lens calibration tools at $80, $100 or even more. And I'm like, this is a lot of money. Maybe I can do something myself. So I tried all that DIY stuff and printing this and rulers. And
the
there's
problem
charts
with it
you
is, you can download and stuff
charts.
like that. You do a Google search, you'll find them.
The problem is consistency.
Yep.
Every time you did it, it was different. So you would set it, and then you're like, well, this was right like 5 days ago, but it's wrong, and they just constantly meandering around. So I said, well, I'm going to go ahead and see if I can just make something that I can use to calibrate these lenses, because I have a dozen in the studio, and then I can actually do it myself. So my goal here was just to simply get it right and get it right quick, easy. And then if I did make something that would work for myself, maybe I can sell it to someone. So I really want it to be really cheap, let's say, cost effective, that everyone can do this. So after probably about, 500 plus prototypes and a pile as high as me, 6 foot, of all these different shapes and sizes and angles and different charts and all this stuff. After all of this time, I came up with this triangle looking thing that you would put it down on this flat surface, you would shoot it, and you would look at your result, and you would be able to every time calibrate the lens. I called it the Focus Pyramid, right?
Yep.
So now it's like 3 years later, And just tens of thousands of these things have been sold, and just everyone just loves it because it's just simple, easy, it's cheap, and everyone can do it, and it just simply works. The nice thing about this is this autofocus lens calibration that these companies allow us to do is every time you snap on a lens, the body says, hey, you just snapped on a 24-70. Yep. I'm going to go ahead and set it for what you told me to set it for a year ago or 5 days ago. And then I take that lens off and snap on a 50. It's like, hey, now I have a Canon 50, 1.4 or 1.8 on here. Let me go and set it for -2 or +3 or whatever it is specific to that lens. So every time you snap on a lens, it's absolutely perfect. So when you hear that beep beep and you locked on point X is in focus, not behind that location, not in front of that location. That front focusing, rear focusing, back focus problem is gone. It's always right. Every single time. So
and these micro focus adjustments allow you to recalibrate the same lens, let's say a month from the first time you did it.
Absolutely.
Or a week from the first time you did it. Again, there are micro motors in there. There's moving parts. Everything is going to have a certain amount of wear over time. So you could, in theory, go and calibrate your lenses every week if you were using them enough. And if you thought it was necessary, you could. And the camera will just update and keep following along with this and keep up to date with the latest settings for those lenses.
Yeah, so now that whole idea of sending the lens back or sending the camera back for this adjustment is gone. That is completely history. So the one thing that's nice too about these is that you go ahead and you shoot it, you take a look. If that is plus, let's say 10 or -10, you know that your lens is way off. At that point, you send it in for repair. They neutralize it. They bring it back to 0. And now when you snap it onto your body, you might be +1 or -1, and it'll be absolutely perfect every time again. So yeah, it's nice. And once again, getting your focus right in camera is imperative. It's imperative for everyone. It doesn't matter who you are. It could be someone that's sitting in the studio, or it could be someone that's shooting quickly, that is shooting motorsports or whatever it is, or maybe a wedding. How many times have people shot a wedding, lined up 6 people, locked on to the front person's tip of their nose or their eyes, shot the image, and found out that 6 inches behind their head was actually where the focus point was, and the wall was perfectly clear. It's like, oh my.
Yeah, and it's a bad shot. I mean, it's an unusable shot.
Yeah, there's no
at that
fix.
Point. Yeah.
Right. There's no fix. Years ago, what we would do is we would focus on, let's say, the bouquet, right? Or we'd focus on something in front of the party, then take the snap, and we know that their face will be perfectly in focus. We don't have to do that anymore. So wonderful.
Exactly. So now we've made the great pictures in the camera. We got them as good as we possibly can. We've taken all of these steps to ensure, sharpness, exposure, white balance. Now we go into post-production. We're back from our event. We're back from the shoot. And what do we do with the photos? So, Joe, you've mentioned Lightroom several times in the first part. We talk about Lightroom all the time. We talk about aperture.
Poor aperture. It's sad.
Yeah, the now discontinued aperture. There's even, free open source management software that you can get, But really, honestly, right now, the only player in the professional market moving forward is Lightroom.
Yeah.
You again, we talked 2 weeks ago or so, aperture is not going to be maintained moving forward. There aren't going to be new releases, but it's certainly still a viable software to use for now.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
If your needs change, it may be time to change over to something else, over to Lightroom. But for right now, if you're buying new software for the very first time, the only professional option out there right now is Lightroom.
And it's funny you say professional, whereas Adobe says, "Oh, it's kind of for just the commercial base, just the general base. It's not for pros."
Yeah,
that's what they always say.
Exactly. They even kind of said that on their blog that, even though pros use Lightroom for their work, I think Adobe kind of views it as a consumer level product. And that is probably part of the reason why you can still buy it as a standalone, in a box.
Yeah, they want the general populace to buy it so they can sell as many as they can. I don't know. And if they did say it was pro, then it would probably go with the pro stuff. And then all of a sudden they're going into the whole cloud thing and the CC and all that.
It would have to
I
be
wouldn't
part of the
doubt,
Creative Suite.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt now that Aperture is out of the picture, let's say, quote unquote, out of the picture, they might pull it into the cloud and force us to pay a subscription in comparison to be able to buy it as a standalone. That's probably not that far around the corner. But regardless, guys, if you don't have something, Lightroom is the way to go. There's plenty of other smaller packages out there that you can use, but this is kind of the way that I would go going forward. I have used Lightroom since beta. I started out with Aperture. As soon as Lightroom came out, I'm like, wow, this is really kind of cool. And there's good. It does synergize with my Adobe product, right? So let's give it a shot. So I was like beta. I was there from the very beginning, 1, 2, 3, all the way up to now 5.5, and I love it. I mean, yes, it's had some growing pains and it had some problems, right, Trev? But it, all in all, it does what it's supposed to do, and it does it well. And so far, they've constantly been iterating and making new stuff, iterating on what they've done, and come up with new stuff continuously. Now that Aperture is not around, I don't know what's going to happen. If it's going to be that awe-inspiring each version as they constantly make the new. But regardless, what they have is really strong, and I love it. When you catalog stuff, you can. The one thing that's really nice about it is you can do stuff globally. So if you bring an event and there's 1,000 pictures, I can rename those 1,000 pictures. I can go and put tags, metadata in there on all the pictures. Let's say copyright information on all the pictures. I can auto-calibrate all the pictures. A lot of time that would take years ago for doing things, you can get done in seconds. With Lightroom.
That's right. I mean,
really
Lightroom is perfect for cataloging all your images, getting them off your camera, getting them onto the computer, a place to put them, a place to sort them, a place to make your selections, sort out the good from the bad, and then make your adjustments to them, adjust the color, adjust sharpness and things like that. I mean, you use Lightroom daily. I mean, I don't use it very often. I don't really have the need to for my work, but Lightroom has come so far that now you can pretty much do everything you need to do right in Lightroom without the need to have to go to Photoshop, which is a huge plus. I mean, because right now you can't buy the standalone version of Photoshop. I mean, Adobe wants you to get the Photographer Creative Suite bundle with Photoshop and Lightroom together for $10 a month. Not a bad deal if you need both.
No.
Photoshop Elements will give you certain capabilities at a standalone software price that you can buy. Right. Not too bad. And that in conjunction with Lightroom, you should probably pretty much be able to do everything you need. But
probably 90% at least.
Right.
Even more.
But for most photographers' needs, I really would say that Lightroom can pretty much take care of everything you need to do.
Yeah, so if you have never used it, just think about it as it's very modular. So it has multiple modules. It has a library module, a development module, maps, book module, slideshow, print, and web. And when you look at this, the two that you're going to stay in almost always would be your library, which will be your catalog, getting it all together, separating, tagging, sorting, rating, and all that. And then your development module for actually doing the changing of the raw data or manipulation. And it's non-destructive. So you can change the data, but it's only saving that data as a sidecar, and it's almost like a recipe. So when you load that image, it also loads the recipe of all those changes that you made. So what's nice is everything gets done in one place. Like I said, maps, so you have GPS stuff, books, you can create a book right in the program, slideshow. Many of these other features, though, they're not really pro. They're more the consumer base. Like chances are, if you're a photographer and you're going to be doing a book for someone, you're going to be creating that book. You're not going to do
a custom design. You're not going to rely on some templates or something that's built into Lightroom. I mean, and to have it look like every other photographer's Lightroom book,
Right. The web area is not bad. It will create HTML5 as well as Flash-based, like let's say a little portal or a proofing station for your customers to look at images and select and say, oh, I want that one and this one. It's okay. Is it great? Nothing fabulous, but I'll
You're probably
use it
better
very
off with a
rarely.
third-party
Yeah.
service. Like I know you use Exposure Manager, where you can actually
Yeah.
upload all your images, have your clients do selects, and even order products from there.
They can order them directly from that third party, or they
Yeah.
can use it as a selection location to select and then tell you what they want. So yeah, that's my recommendation. So like I said, you have your two major areas, which is your library for cataloging, as well as your development for doing all of the developing. Well, once they've added presets to it, which allows you to create, let's say, this recipe that I'm talking about, and then with one click, add that recipe to an image, now all of a sudden things have changed. And the world has opened up as far as time management and how long it takes you to create images that you're looking for or that your client is looking for, which is so very important. Some clients will come in, like you said, your client or someone that you knew with the whole black and white thing. They love black and white. Well, maybe they like black and white, but maybe they like what I like, which is what I call mocha. And it's like a richy kind of real nice, rich brownish type of black and white. I don't like the bluish black and white, and I don't like sepia at all. So I like this mocha. Maybe they like that. Well, if you make a preset, right, that you create with this beautiful mocha look, you select all 1,000 pictures, you click that preset, and they're all done in a moment. Right. I mean, compared to years ago where you're actually having to sit there and do it and paste, and it was a headache. So a preset,
yeah. You use Lightroom all the time, so you're definitely a lot more familiar with I know what a preset is, obviously, just because I've used it, but maybe explain to those that are new to Lightroom what a preset really is. Like how not necessarily how it's constructed, and we know how it's used, but what is a preset?
Yeah, so a preset is kind of like a formula, a way of taking all of the raw components of an image, all of those variables, and then setting them the way you like it, and then saving them for reproduction.
Right, so, and you're using different commands to do that. Like you want to do a brightness and contrast, so you add a brightness and contrast component to this preset. Maybe you want to do a color shift, so that you do a hue and saturation or something like that, and add into this formula and then save it.
Correct. And what's nice is it's just with that one click, super simple. You don't have a lot to do to reproduce something that you really like or something that your client likes. So for me, I do a lot of fashion work. I do a lot of portraiture, a lot of branding portraiture, advertising, type campaigns, commercial type stuff. And then there'll be clients that say, well, I need something that looks like X, Y, or Z. Or right now, Tom Ford stuff really looks cool, or Dolce & Gabbana, or Valentino, or maybe Vogue. I really like this type of process, this Vogue image. I want my stuff to look like that. So no problem.
Right.
So what I would do is I go and I research what is currently trending in the fashion world, or what's currently trending in the color world. What is the palette for this season? I get all those palettes down so I know what they are, and then I take a look at how that post-production, what's going on, what's trending in post-production. Like I said, what is Valentino doing? What is Vogue doing this season? What are they doing in there? Or what is Tom Ford or whoever is doing? And now I create a preset to kind of mimic that and then massage it and love it and caress it into what I want, something new and innovative and something just fresh, but it's based on something that is current. And that is really what people are looking for. Brides, it doesn't matter who it is, commercial or just the lay folk. They want stuff that they see in magazines, stuff that's fresh and hot,
Yeah, Instagram with all these different Instagram filters. This has gotten the average person excited about filters. It's excited about color corrections, color shifts and things to images, different filters, noise filters, grain filters, things like that. And people are starting to see this everywhere. And it's becoming more and more popular. So you're starting to see these types of techniques filter in through the design and the creative industries. And you're seeing them in magazines. Who really would take an Instagram photo and put it in a magazine. I mean,
Yep.
you're not going to use that photo from Instagram to actually go to offset printing in a magazine with, but
Yeah.
people like that look, that
Yes.
technique. So we need to be able to simulate that in Lightroom, and by developing these presets and being able to save them, we can do them over and over and over again.
Exactly. So, and that's what I do. So each season or every time something new and fresh comes out, I'm constantly creating these presets. So what happens is then I can take an image and they say, oh, I want something that looks like that. No problem. A single click, I'm like 95% there. I can go and kind of massage it a little bit more just to get it exactly right. And that's it. The image is done, in comparison to me having to go through this whole formula again and reinvent the wheel.
Reinvent the wheel each time. Yep.
You don't want to have to do that. So what I did was I took all of these presets that I've been using for this season and I put them into a package. And now I created this product called the Fashion Series. And that's exactly what it is. It's based on all of this work that I do on a regular basis anyways. Now I'm just kind of giving it to everyone or making it available to everyone. So
yeah, exactly. And you know what? I mean, I love that you're doing that. I mean, I love that you're taking these tools that you've created for yourself and that you're making them available to the public. You know, I mean, I know me personally, you know, I'm always looking to enhance my creativity for, you know, a web project. I mean, I'm always looking at what the trending designs are and if I can incorporate some of these new techniques into a customer's website. And, you know, but sometimes it's like, you know, I would have to reinvent the wheel. I'd have to start from scratch.
Yes.
And being able to have these tools to kind of get you there, you know, already, or at least partway there, 95% of the way there, and then you put your own spin on it, makes life so much easier, so much
Absolutely.
faster. I mean, it all comes back to the time is money thing, right?
Absolutely.
We need to do this stuff as quickly as possible to keep that hourly rate that we're charging up there. I mean, if
Yeah.
we're charging $120 an hour or something like that, you know, but it ends up taking you, you know, 3 hours for something that you're really only billing 1 hour for, well, then your hourly rate just dropped way down.
Yeah.
And people don't want to hear, oh, I have to charge you more money because it took me longer to get your images to look right. You know, they don't want to hear that. I mean, you just need to be able to do it. And you know, and you need to know how you're going to do it and how you're going to charge accordingly for it. So definitely utilizing these tools, you know, getting your images right up front, getting them correct in the camera, and then being able to have something in post to really enhance them and deliver something that's creative is great. Yeah, I love it. I mean, you know, it's the whole, you know, take the creative mindset that you have as a photographer and mix it in with the entrepreneurial spirit, and there you go. This is what you get.
And I agree with the whole time is money thing. I think everything that I do or what I focus on, I do for myself first and look at it and say, will anyone else care or can I help another photographer? And that's just like the show. I mean, we've been doing it for 3 years, free of charge for everyone in the world. I mean, we've got tens and tens of thousands of people, but it's the thing that we do it because we just absolutely love to do it. I mean, you know, when I'm creating something new, and if it's going to be for me or something that I'm going to share, I mean, I just love it. I get into it. I live, breathe. I eat photography. I just love it. And it's one of those things that, you know, everyone is different. Some people do it as a way to go and make a ton of money, and that's what their vision is, and they think that that's how it's going to go. But the truth be told, as a photographer, it's just like any other type of creative or artist. You're not going to get rich until you're dead unless you just kind of hit something just perfect, just right, and you kind of fall into something. You know, luck is made. You know, you have to be in the right place at the right time. Absolutely. But too many times people think that they're going to make a ton of money. They see some money come in and they're like, oh, wow, this is great. And they can do it. And they don't last very long as a photographer because it's not how it goes. Most of the time is spent in post-production or trying to advertise ourselves to get business. Back to the time is money. We need to get away from that whole sitting behind the computer more than we're sitting behind the camera. We need to get back to shooting and not developing. So all of this kind of stuff will actually save you time, which ends up saving you money. So hopefully, you know, there's two things that I've come up with that will hopefully help everyone out.
Yeah. And this is the great thing. So for all you listeners, Joe has actually created a new website. It's jchristina.com, and that's Christina without an H.
That's
and
right.
You can go over there and you can purchase both the Focus Pyramid or the new Fashion Series presets. And if you decide you want to buy either one of them, you can use DPC 10 and get 10% off the Focus Pyramid, or you can use DPC 20 and get 20% off the Fashion Series presets. If you feel you want to buy both of them, you can actually apply both codes and get discounts on both products in the shopping cart at once, which is really cool. So, definitely thanks, Joe, for offering these products out to the public, and for the discounts as well for the show, which is awesome. And I definitely encourage everybody to check them out. I mean, of course, Joe and I are buds here, so of course we kind of keep track of what each other are doing, and I've definitely checked out the stuff. I know it's good. I know it works. So definitely I encourage you all to check it out.
Yeah, hopefully everyone loves it, uses it, and saves some time and kind of enjoys them.
Yes, awesome. Very cool. All right, man, we got to get out of here. So if people want to connect with you outside of the show, what is the best way for them to reach you?
You can find me on Twitter, and that's at Joseph Christina, and that's Christina without an H.
Great, and you can connect with me on Twitter. It's at Trevor Current.
All right, everyone, we are out of here for yet another week. That's show 160. Wow, amazing. Yes. So you can get all the show notes from this episode by visiting digitalphotographycafe.com/160. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/dphotocafe. And we will see you next week.
You've been watching the Digital Photography Cafe show with Trevor Current and Joseph Christina. Subscribe to our YouTube channel with any compatible device by visiting youtube.com/dphotocafe. Be sure to subscribe to our audio feed through iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and Xbox Music apps, or through RSS. Visit digitalphotographycafe.com for show notes and to connect with your hosts.